Every girl dreams of that perfect relationship, but unfortunately, that perfect relationship can quickly turn into their worst nightmare. Domestic violence not only affects those who are abused, but also affects family members, friends, and the community at large. For the first 14 years of my life, I grew up in a home that unfortunately experienced domestic violence. I witnessed the abuse my mom went through, and it only not affected her, it affected me, my sisters, and the people who cared about us most. I am not an expert in this topic, but I decided to further research domestic violence in hopes to help my community. As a community, we must help those who are being abused by their partners and are too afraid to speak up. And the best way to do so is by educating our youth to discontinue the violent strain. One unintended consequence of domestic violence is the children who experience it and continue the domestic violence later in their lives. It is important we push to incorporate educational courses that will help kids understand healthy relationship patterns. First, we will look at examples of domestic violence and how it affects the direct victims as well as the children. This is a picture of Elizabeth, who is a survivor of domestic and gun violence. The girl in the poster behind her is her daughter, who was killed by Elizabeth's ex-partner. She said in an interview, "My entire face was reconstructed because the bullets tore it apart. I was in a coma for almost a month." According to the U.S. Department of Justice, domestic violence is a pattern of abusive behaviors in any relationship that is used by one partner to gain or maintain control and power over an intimate partner. Domestic violence can be physical, sexual, emotional, economical, physical, psychological, or technological actions or threats of action, or other patterns of coercive behavior that influence another partner within a relationship. In the U.S., an estimated 23% of women and 14% of men have experienced an act of violence within their lifetime. The children who experience this type of violence are greatly affected. According to the American Academy of Family Physicians, it is estimated that 3.2 million Americans children witness incidents of domestic violence annually. Children who have witnessed or experienced domestic violence have an increased risk for psychological risk, including anxiety, depression, PTSD, heart disease, obesity, and diabetes. Children who have witnessed domestic violence have 40% lower reading levels than other children their age. So, eventually, children will use violence as a solution to conflict since it is what they have grown up witnessing. In some cases, early exposure to abuse sets the stage for children to walk that same line in adulthood. According to verywellmind.com, a medically reviewed article about how domestic violence affects children, children that grew up watching a parent experience abuse are likely to deal with effects that last well into adulthood. Males may physically abuse their partners after watching their fathers do the same, and women from homes that witness domestic violence are more likely to tolerate violence from their partners in adulthood. After looking at the definition of domestic violence and how it affects the victims and children, we can look at a proposed solution. Though there are many resources for those who are abused domestically, the best way to protect children and their future relationships is to educate them about healthy relationship dynamics. Since children spend most of their time at school, we could use that time to educate them about healthier interactions between partners. This can help heal the damage caused after witnessing domestic violence. Prevention programs in schools are more effective when promoted through whole school policies rather than single component programs or individual teachers. An article by frontierson.org says a survey commissioned by the Domestic Violence Charity Refuge involving 513 young women aged 18 to 21 revealed that just 13% have learned about domestic violence while at school, and 17% of them responded they would have welcomed such lessons. 7 secondary high schools in the United Kingdom evaluated a 6-week education program with a total of 1,023 participants. Findings showed that boys and girls that participated in the program became less accepting of domestic violence and were more likely to seek help. If the U.S. incorporated a program to help young adults be informed of domestic abuse signs and how to seek help, it will help reduce the number of kids affected annually. Now that we have discussed this problem with a supposed solution, I hope you all will take interest in the resolution of domestic violence. Children are witnessing domestic violence and are not receiving the help they need, so our schools should be addressing this situation. People, especially women, are losing their lives to domestic violence every year, and they are too afraid to speak up. To stop the cycle, we need to educate our children so they know how to treat others humanely and respectfully. If you are not concerned after hearing the consequences of domestic violence and how it affects children, imagine your kids experiencing domestic abuse and being afraid to seek help. If you suspect anyone or if you are experiencing domestic violence, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE 7233.